Hi, everyone. I want to share with you today a concern I'm having regarding music and the direction that it is going. First of all, my name is Zachary Moore. I am a music educator at Waukesha West High School. I've been teaching for 4 years now. On top of that, I have been a composer now for the last 13 years and have done a lot of study in that realm, as well as, I would say, music programming as well. My concern, two words: virtual choirs. Not that virtual choirs will replace anything, because they never will. I'm not concerned with that. What I'm concerned with is how easy it is to watch virtual choirs on YouTube, number one. And number two, the amount of virtual choirs that have been coming out as well. I think subliminally, those two things together send the wrong message to a lot of people. First of all, watching a video on YouTube, when one watches a video on YouTube for free, I think the majority of the population doesn't think about the amount of production that goes into those. Because we can watch them for free, we think that it's low production and it's an easy thing to do. That's number one. Number two, the amount of something that's out there, in this case, virtual choirs, sends the message that anyone can do this. So far, what I've been finding from educators, from in many conversations with many people, this isn't pointing fingers at anyone that I've had a conversation with. This is just from a lot of different conversations I've had, that individuals are expecting music educators now to do virtual performances, and that they can just do this because they're a one-to-one district. The teacher all of a sudden has the technology to be able to do these things, which is completely not true at all. That is far from the fact. And there's a few things I want to go through with you today about the process of making a virtual choir, so that you can better understand why an educator should not be obligated to do this or expected to do this. Because to expect someone to make a virtual ensemble is well beyond anyone's salary, and they deserve more compensation, if anything, if being asked to do this. So, topics: the money aspect, what type of technology you need to pay for to get people to do something like this, the time commitment behind this, the language that needs to be understood when doing this, and being kind to educators and not judging them in this time. Okay, here we go. First of all, the money aspect behind this all. As I mentioned before, I've been very interested in music production on top of composing. So my hobbies happen to align with spending money on average things that people wouldn't typically have, especially as a music educator. If I were to do this virtual project and I didn't have any of these things, the bare minimum that I would need are the following things. So first of all, I would need my computer, the one I'm using right now. Not a laptop, I need a desktop. I need a 21.5-inch iMac with 16 gigabytes of RAM, as well as a decent amount of core processors. At this point, there's iMacs out there with 8 core processors, 16 gigabytes of RAM. That costs around $1,500. That's what I would need at bare minimum. And to be honest, that might not even be enough, especially if you're looking at the visual aspect of things behind a virtual choir, because the ability to run that many videos at the same time takes a lot of RAM. So, I would need at least that. So $1,500 right there. I would need Logic. That's the program you're looking at right now with all the fun colors. I would need some type of digital audio workstation where I can manipulate the audio files to fit the exact cutoffs and entrances and consonances and hits, I guess you could say. And that costs about $200. In addition to that, I would need a decent pair of studio headphones, ones that are flat in sound. That means that they don't have any specific, you know, bass being pushed through or trebles being pushed through. It's very even across the board as to what is being heard. Um, because in the end, if you're putting out a virtual ensemble, you want it to sound good. You don't want it to sound like trash. And lastly, any plugins that you might need um, that would cost maybe $100. I should say my headphones cost about $150. The plugins, if you want plugins to make your recordings sound more professional, quieter, or anything like that, that could cost you around $100 maybe. So far, we're looking at is a total cost. These are all the things that I would need in order to be successful. A total cost of all this would be about $1,900 to a little over $2,000. Okay. And that is money, in my opinion, that shouldn't come out of one's own bank account if their work is requiring them or asking them to do this. They need some type of financial help in order to do this type of thing. And I know it's a lot, but that's what you're asking for is a lot. So the time commitment behind this all, the amount of time that I put into this, this for me, this is a passion of mine. If I was being asked to do this on top of my job, which I'm not, I would want some type of compensation. In order to do 70 tracks, 50 tracks a day, it takes me over 8 hours to do that. And, that's on top of me balancing my family and friends. That's on top of me balancing eating and household chores and just staying sane, I guess. And on top of also just making lesson plans and videos for my students and all that things that go with my typical job. The time commitment alone is just a lot for putting this together. And that's not even taking for account the language that needs to be learned with these programs. I want to show you more in depth what is happening in this program. So before I do, off to the side, you'll see I have 12 virtual choirs here that I've worked on. Each one has 50 plus voices in them. And right here in this program is an example of the virtual choir 1 that you saw there. And these are all the voices that are in the virtual choir 1. Within my DAW or my digital audio workstation, I can manipulate their audio samples to make sure their cutoffs and entrances and consonants are happening at the same time. If you look at this example right here, every single line that you see represents an edit that I had to make to the audio file. And what I can do is I can slide these around to manipulate the audio file so that it happens at a specific time to the file. And this looks like a lot. Honestly, this is probably the average. If I kind of scroll through, you'll see everyone's. Some will have less, some will have more. And as you can imagine, this isn't just listening to the recording once and then making all these edits and then moving on to the next. This is listening to the recording multiple times. And it's a lot of work. So if you can imagine each of those 12 tracks I showed you before and how much work goes into each of those tracks. I hope you have more of an appreciation now. And I'm not looking for thank yous or praises or anything like that. I'm just looking for you to understand what you're asking of someone to do if you're wanting them to do a virtual performance. It's a lot. And then on top of that, I did a video with my students. Here's kind of a screenshot of the final product. You can see that I think I have 15 videos happening here at once. And the way I was able to put this together, to be honest, was I had to export the video file 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times because my computer could only handle up to like 4 or 5 videos at once. So what I did is this right here, these 4 individuals were one video together. And then these 4 individuals were another video together. The 4 individuals on the outside, so 1, 2, 3, 4, that was another video. And then the 3 videos in the center, that was the last that was another video. And then what I had to do is, before I did the last 3 here, I had to put this video on, crop the video, put this video on, crop that video, add this video as a layer below these 2 videos so that these 2 appeared above the black that was in the middle. I had to export that together then, and then finally put these 3 on top. And then when all was said and done, I had this video in the end. That took a lot of time to do. It was a lot of waiting around, and this was just 12. Imagine if a choir director had 50 some people to do this. This could take a lot of time, especially if they don't have a computer that has perhaps as much processing power or RAM as this one. It's a lot to ask for. So to close out, I guess, I would ask that individuals that are posing the question to do a virtual performance think about the gravity of what you're asking for. I would also ask that music educators not be judged in these times for not putting out a virtual choir. And I hope you now understand why they might not be doing that. Because it is a lot of work and it is a lot of resources. It's a huge commitment, and quite frankly, that time commitment isn't in their current contract to do that. Their job is to educate you and to make you better. And not having one performance of a virtual choir shouldn't change one's entire outlook on an educator. This isn't what makes an educator. An educator is someone that has helped you change for the better, that has done things for you, that has taught you to be a better person and all that. And everything shouldn't be negated because of one thing like this. I want to thank you so much for listening to this. I hope that you took something away from this, and that you don't take videos like virtual choirs for granted, or virtual anything for granted, because there is definitely a certain amount of production that went behind all of these videos, and a certain amount of time that went behind all these videos. Thank you again for listening, and stay safe, my friends.